do not lease a car right now. Wait at least 3 to 6 months, if not longer, to be honest. We have seen some of the worst lease conditions during 2022, and the beginning of 2023 is no exception. However, Dad, signs point that leasing a vehicle will become a more financially viable option later on this year because the automakers who weren't supporting their leasing programs are starting to. We're starting to see some automakers support their lease programs again.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the automakers really understand the concept that they're better off getting the customer back in the market every 3 years rather than having that customer have to wait 6 or 7 years. So during the shortages, we didn't see manufacturers really artificially supporting leases either through higher residual values or lower interest rates.
Yep.
And so leasing, which was used to run at about 33 to 35% of all sales, dropped down to about 16 to 17% of sales. And although they sold cars, that's not sustainable for being able to sell cars on a regular basis every 3 years. You want to be able to get your customers back into that marketplace sooner rather than later. One of the big shots at Toyota said, hey, we've got to figure out how to get leasing back into the 30% range again because we want to capture those customers much more frequently than if we just finance them for 60 or 72 or even 84 months.
Leasing is beneficial for many reasons. One is, like you're stating, it gets customers back in the market. The second is those are used cars, quality used cars that you know are maintained, because typically when you lease a car, it's got a maintenance plan, or if it doesn't, at least it's short term. It's 36,000 miles typically, so you're not putting a ton of miles on the vehicle. Although you can, and you've explained this to me in the past, you can get kind of more customized lease terms. The point being, Dad, it gets used cars, quality used cars back in the market, which is a good thing. And it also gets customers back into the market to buy another new car, to lease another new car. And we were advocating for the longest time. And honestly, quite frankly, unless you're a Nissan customer interested in some of the crazy things they're doing over there on their residual values, it still doesn't make sense to lease.
Thinking about getting an extended warranty? Go to joinyaa.com and check out our pricing there. There's no obligation, no spam, no robocalls. YAA for your extended warranty.
There is an interesting phenomenon going on, though, Dad, which is that the automakers and the captive leasing companies aren't letting customers buy out their leases at the end of the term.
Yes.
This, I think, gives them more control over what those prices will be in the used car market.
Well, it does that, and it takes away one of the true options that a customer had on most leasing, which was you basically had three options. You could turn the car in and walk away. You could turn the car or trade it in and get into another lease. Or if the residual value was below its market value, you could buy it. And you were buying your vehicle below true market value. And if you wanted to, you could then sell it and reap that profit. Many of the captive lenders today are doing away with the consumer's option to be able to buy the lease out at the end. If the type of lease you're looking at has that language, personally, I wouldn't lease it because that truly limits your options. And, you know, for people that had leased 2-3 years ago and their leases came due last year, you know, they reaped great rewards. It's one of the few times in history. But it was an opportunity for them to take advantage of something. Many of the manufacturers are taking that opportunity away.
Another thing we've seen is the grounding dealer, where you can actually ground the lease, return the vehicle. We've seen a lot of pressure on that. And to be very clear, ultimately, the leasing company is the one that has to get paid off. They're the one that owns the vehicle and they're renting it out to you. But we've seen different captive finance companies, for example, if you want to go to CarMax and sell your lease, they made that significantly more difficult. That's another thing we didn't really like about leasing over the past year or so. Now, why are we saying wait 3 or 6 months? Probably, Dad, because we're going to see two things happen. Manufacturers support residual values again, and manufacturers start to buy down money rates, money factors. Can you explain those two pieces and how they play into this and why we think that those things are going to become better?
Well, the reason we think it's going to happen is we anticipate that new car inventories are going to continue to grow. And as they continue to grow, then the manufacturers are forced with figuring out ways to get more people to buy them or lease them. When manufacturers artificially support the residual value, they might say that a vehicle 3 years from now, which is typically worth about 50 or 55% of its original MSRP, they might step up and say, okay, we're going to set that at 65% so that the person leasing it won't be faced with paying as much depreciation. And the other way they influence leases is through money factors. That's the interest portion of a lease. And they can manipulate money factors to the point where you're basically almost paying zero in interest on it. So that also helps to bring down your monthly payment on a lease.
And it will be a viable option for a lot of folks that are payment shopping. And I think that's why you'll see automakers really lean into it as a way to counterbalance the idea of higher average transaction prices and higher MSRPs. For example, Dad, Nissan customers right now, 2023 Rogue, you can get a 36-month lease for as little as $349 a month with a $3,279 down. That is half of what the average transaction or the average monthly payment is for a new car. Mm-hmm. That's attractive to a lot of people.
Oh, absolutely. And may I say, when you see those leases advertised at the $3,279 down, that's a cap cost reduction. That excludes any sales taxes, any title and registration fees. Yep. So it typically ends up being considerably more. The total could probably approach $5,000. But the point is that there's a way for you to get a vehicle for $350 a month, as opposed to putting the same type of money down and getting a vehicle at what is an average payment today of about $730 a month.
Quick question for everyone that's watched the video to this point. Should we do a deal school for leasing? Should we get you explaining how to negotiate leases? We do have a step-by-step video on how to negotiate leases here on YouTube, so please go watch that. But, like breaking down what's money factor mean? What does residual value mean? What is multiple security deposits? What does that do?
How's the lease actually calculated?
Exactly. Let us know if you would be interested in us doing something like a deal school specifically for leasing. But there you go.
What is the acquisition fee?
What is the acquisition? What is the disposition fee?
Yes. And what is
does it have gap insurance?
Yes.
Are they trying to sell you ancillary products that don't make any sense because it's under warranty? Can you get out of a lease? Can you swap a lease?
Yes.
Anyway, let us know. There's a lot of lease questions. But wait, if you can wait, do not lease a car right now. We expect the automakers to be more aggressive in how they're supporting these leases. Just be patient.
That is the key.
Thank you, Pops.
Thank you, Hanson.